Hi, I'm Ariel. You're watching She Wants Addiction. This is part 2 of me talking about the books I'm reading for Blackathon. Woo! I got a stack. So I finished the poetry book I was reading, which is Absolute Trust in the Goodness of the Earth by Alice Walker. I really don't have much more to say about that, so I'll put that aside. The other thing that I read was Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, which I finished this in literally like 2 days. Because it's super tiny. Like, I don't know, like this book cover, I feel like the hardback makes it look fatter than it really is. But like, it's the shortest thing ever. And also like there's a bunch of unnecessary crap in here, which I think is because it's a Barnes & Noble edition, and I feel like they love to be pretentious about their classics and stuff it with like ridiculous intros and just like all the shit that you don't need. Like, honestly, I skipped the intro and I just went straight to like his narrative. And even before that, there's like this letter by a white abolitionist. There was a really great passage in there, which I might actually read it. But yeah, I don't know why they always feel like for every classic, they need to have like an introduction by someone. Like, I feel like the classics speak for themselves. Whatever, I don't know, it just bothers me. Oh, here it is. William Lloyd Garrison, a well-known abolitionist. He was a founder of the American Anti-Slavery Society, as well as the founder and publisher of The Liberator. So, yeah, this is what he said. It may perhaps be fairly questioned whether any other portion of the population of the earth could have endured the privations, sufferings, and horrors of slavery without having become degraded in the scale of humanity than the slaves of African descent. Nothing has been left undone to cripple their intellects, darken their minds, debase their moral nature, or obliterate all traces of their relationship to mankind, and yet how wonderfully they have sustained the mighty load of a most frightful bondage under which they have been groaning for centuries. So, I just thought that was sick. Frederick Douglass was a boss. I mean, he literally, like, learned to read pretty much only knowing the fucking ABCs. Literally, his mistress, he got, like, this mistress that wasn't that fucking strict, and so she taught him the ABCs, until her husband fucking overheard her giving him lessons, and he was like, you can't do that, because once they start learning and reading, they're not going to be good slaves anymore, and if they start getting smart and stuff, then it's going to be the white people that are enslaved, which I fucking love that. Like, honestly, just like, okay, if you guys remember The Great Gatsby, Tom in that book is racist as fuck, and while they're having like this dinner conversation, he says something about, yeah, the black people are gonna take over or something like that. It's just hilarious how these racists think that, like, I don't know, it's like they're almost afraid to be enslaved, but they're like enslaving other people. It's like, I don't know, it's just like the most funniest thing to me. Like, I don't know why, it's so like ironic. Like, are you afraid that if they get free, they're gonna come after you, like, and get revenge? But it's hilarious because I feel like most people don't want revenge. They just want to be treated like normal human beings, but that's a whole nother fucking discussion. It's not like we even got like reparations or any fucking thing, so.
People would be like, white people are soon to be a minority in America.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's still a thing, dude.
What is it? Is it bad? Are you admitting that minorities are being treated badly in America?
We don't want to be a minority. Like, it's hilarious how fucking afraid they are. Like, that's their justification is, if I don't do this, the black people are gonna take over. Like, that's like the worst thing that could possibly happen or something. But so he taught himself to read pretty much, because after that she had to stop teaching him and he had to seek out lessons from like other people, which mostly was other white boys that he would trick into showing him how to draw like the other letters and stuff or words. Because he would basically say, hey, I know how to write better than you. And they'd be like, oh, no, you don't. And then he would show them what he knew how to write. And they would like try to one-up him so he could learn more like letters and stuff. And then he also learned from seeing like on the ship docks or whatever, people when they were putting together the boats would like label the pieces of the ship with whatever part of the ship it was supposed to go to. So he learned letters like that. Like, literally the determination of this fucking shit. And like, if you just look at how like the way that he writes is so like, it's just crazy. Like, I don't know, he writes really well, and I really didn't want to like put it down because I wanted to know what happened to him. Now, he doesn't really explain exactly how he escaped, because towards the end he's afraid that if he says everything that he did, then it'll prevent other slaves from being able to escape. But it just talks about like all the cruelties and all the different masters that he had, and people's families were being separated. And he also talks about how a lot of the mixed people or the mixed slaves would get treated even worse, because obviously like a lot of the mixed slaves were born when their white masters would like rape, you know, the black women that they had under their ownership or whatever. So that's what happened with him, Frederick Douglass. So he knew his dad was probably like his master, and then his mom died when he was pretty little. The wives would treat the mixed slaves a lot worse than the other slaves a lot of times, because obviously they were mad about their husband fucking slaves. They would say that they were like cursed and all this other shit. Like, a lot of the times people talk about how these slave masters, a lot of them were really devout Christians, and they would spend a lot of time praying and all this other shit, but then they would turn around and do like the most vile things. And even at the end, he has a section where he's like, I don't have anything against Christianity in general, but the Christianity that they were practicing was really hypocritical. And I was like, this is literally so relevant to today. It's not even fucking funny. Like, this is still the realest shit I've ever read. He also taught himself to write. So not only did he learn to read, he also had to learn to write. He had this book of speeches, orations or whatever by different famous authors, like famous speeches, and he would read that, which probably contributed a lot to, you know, him becoming a spokesperson for the abolitionist movement and writing his whole fucking story of growing up as a slave and shit. But yeah, he eventually became a free man, so that's sick. Frederick Douglass was a boss. Like, I don't know why I didn't read this. I mean, I know like we read a little bit of it in school, but you don't get like the full picture, I don't feel like. And then another thing I was thinking about is, why the fuck is books like To Kill a Mockingbird considered like the quintessential statement on racism, when I'm pretty sure from the fucking mouth of an actual slave would be the best way to talk about racism? Like, I don't understand why we're not reading this, like why this is, I mean, yeah, it's a classic, but we're not, I don't know, it's not revered like To Kill a Mockingbird is. Like, why is it always the white voices that are writing about racism are listened to before the black voices? Like, I don't know, that really fucking bothers me. Like, it's not that the fact that there's something wrong with the fact that she's white. Like, it's the fact that when you're only listening to white voices, or you're taking them as an authority on black issues over black voices, or you're only reading white works when there are equally good or better works by black people on the same subjects, like, fucking bothers the shit out of me. So yeah, this is quality. And then we also went thrifting the other day, and I found this book, which I was cracking up because it's just a black cover and it says, I'm somebody important. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's the most egotistical book I've ever fucking seen. It's actually subtitled Young Black Voices from Rural Georgia. And I'm pretty sure I like just flipped through it, but I'm pretty sure it's a bunch of like interviews and stuff, just like with random black kids that were living in Georgia at the time. And I was like, this is gonna be probably pretty interesting. So $2, that's probably something no one else is reading. I guarantee you. But it also has photographs, which I'm excited for. Oh shit, I forgot about this. I don't remember exactly how I ran across this, but it's called Dandelion, the Black Dandy and Street Style. As soon as I saw this book, I was like, I gotta get this for my brother, because ever since we were kids, he's been dressing like fucking, I don't know, like he always likes suits and dressing up and that kind of shit, and I personally didn't get it. I always thought it was stupid and weird and whatever, but the whole concept behind the Black Dandy is basically that they take these European styles of dressing, so like suits and all that kind of like formal wear, and then they put like an African or wherever they're from, they put that twist on it, where it's like a subversion of what people expect black people to be. You know, obviously like the formal wear is a sign of like education, wealth, basically the opposite of what the stereotype of a black person is. So I thought that was awesome. Black men, formal wear, like it's the only book I could find that's specifically about that, and the pictures are gorgeous, so definitely get that. And when I checked it out from the library, I could literally tell, okay, the book's like at least a couple years old, I don't know how old, pretty new, but I could tell like no one had ever fucking opened it, like brand fucking new. Like, that shit was crazy. I was like, no one's looked at this. This is so fucking sad. After I bought it for him, which I just shipped it to him on Amazon, I was like, I gotta get like the physical book so I can see like what I sent him, because I hadn't even looked at it. But yeah, I'm really glad I got that for him. So there's that. And then I just cracked this today. It's called Black Enough, Stories of Being Young and Black in America. And it's edited by Ibi Zoboi, which I guess she wrote the retelling of Pride and Prejudice, which everyone's been talking about. I haven't read that. I probably won't, since I've never read Pride and Prejudice, but I honestly thought this was going to be a serious book, just because a lot of them are just more about violence towards black bodies and the shootings, and obviously like all the political stuff that's happening, which I understand that, but this is more like lighthearted, and it's fiction. I thought it was like nonfiction from like teenagers or something, but it's not. But it's definitely probably aimed at like young adult level. Pretty good so far. I think that's it.